We are now joined via Zoom by Associate Professor of Political Science and International Relations, Professor David Monyae, to weigh in on the devastating earthquake that has rocked Syria, but also looking at the economic sanctions over Syria. Very good afternoon to you, Prof. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Good afternoon.
All right, let's start here. I mean, it's obviously a very bad time for Syria and Turkey right now. How should the international community be of aid to Syria, given the challenges that the country is facing? Is all this aid that we're seeing now sufficient for that country?
I think what is required at this moment is the suspension of these sanctions to deal with this humanitarian disaster we are facing. And therefore, I think mobilization of the international community, and it's critical. It's comforting to see South Africans and Africans contributing and playing a critical role in assisting both Turkey and Syria. The major challenge, I think it is with Syria, because Syria has gone through a 12-year civil war, infrastructure is dilapidating, and at this moment they have one of the coldest seasons that they're facing. So it is important to move speedily, given the fact that we are running out of time in terms of saving lives, as well as alleviating the poverty, as more and more people are outside their homes and there's lack of infrastructure. There has been other crises such as cholera and a lack of food, basic food. Therefore, I think we all as international community have a crisis in our hands.
Yeah, Prof, you talk about the issue of suspending those sanctions. Perhaps let's take a step back and talk about, how Syria found itself in that position, taking us back in terms of when Syria, was sanctioned. And obviously these sanctions will be debilitating now, given the current situation that they are faced with. How, they got there. Maybe we should take a step back and just talk about that, and how easy it might be to indeed suspend or those sanctions, or perhaps not so easy to suspend those sanctions.
It will be indeed difficult to suspend, given the fact that big powers are involved. You have United States and most Western countries that intervene in Syria 12 years ago. I think there has been an ongoing during the Obama era and the intervention by Western countries in dealing and supporting rebel groups within Syria to an extent that Syria has become a country divided, with certain parts of Syria governed by rebel groups, while the government maintaining certain areas. So you have other countries such as Iran, Russia, supports the government, and you have Turkey that has its own issues, that certain parts of Syria under the control of Turkey, and therefore that part of the world, particularly areas where the earthquake has hit, it's highly contested, with so many forces coming from all over the world, and it would be difficult for those who are trying to help practically as well as politically, given the big powers involved.
Yeah, it's obviously, as you mentioned, the big powers that are involved, and one would automatically think about the US, who have indeed been criticized widely in the wake of this devastation. And as you say, there's been calls to lift those sanctions, to certainly allow more aid into the country. Are you of the view that, this is something that Biden and the Biden administration will seriously look into, and very quickly? You mentioned the fact that, and it's true, that time is not on anyone's side at this point. How do you believe that, he should and would proceed?
I think the United States could assist in terms of easing the pressure on the Syrian government to ensure that all the assistance to this disaster is coordinated through Damascus. And as it stands, as you can hear from some of the people interviewed, it appears that the particular Western world does not trust the Syrian government, and they use certain channels, whether via Syria, to assist those who are heavily affected. At this stage, there is absolutely no need to, firstly, to continue the war, and as well as the blockade and using sanctions. It will worsen the situation. As it stands, we're expecting more than 20,000 people to die out of this disaster, and there will be more people dying after the entire disaster has been cleared. There's poverty, lack of movement of people, and given the conflict on the ground, it will worsen the situation, given the fact that whether rebels or the government will take advantage of the situation.
So we always appreciate your sober analysis. Many thanks to you.
Most welcome.
All right, that is Associate Professor of Political Science and International Relations, Professor David Monyae, weighing in, of course, on the devastating earthquake that has rocked Syria, but also looking at the economic sanctions, of course, over Syria.